today's episode of Coffee with Kevin, this is one of the, this is I guess every season, every episode I need, every season I gotta have like one of my family members on the program. So today I have my grandfather, John Larmann, on the program. Thank you so much for coming to get coffee with me.
It's a pleasure, it's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Last season, I don't know if you saw the episode with Owen, but I had my son, he was like less than 1 at the time, and he was on the program, but he didn't have much to say. So you'll have a little bit more to say than Owen, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hope so. 1 year old.
So what I always enjoy picking up the phone or sitting down and have coffee with you because, you know, and it's something I forget from time to time, but, you know, you grew up, so you're 90 years old, you've made 90 this year, and you grew up a lot on Louisa Street and that. So you grew up in this neighborhood.
True.
So that's just very interesting to me because it's neat to like our house where we bought on Independence, you were like, oh, I rode my bike back and forth in front of this house every day.
All the way going to school every day.
And
at Nichols High School.
It doesn't occur to me living around here all the time that there was like, and then there was generations of people before you
and
that lived in these streets.
And now you're there.
And now I'm here. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's kind of...
That's phenomenal when you think about it, but that's life. Life goes on. Different people follow behind the other generation, previous generation.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
But now, because you would tell me you had some uncles. You had an uncle that lived on, well, okay, so it's Almonaster. You're going to call it Almonaster, but for everybody else, it's Franklin Avenue.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's Franklin Avenue and music.
I had 3 aunts and an uncle. They were all brothers and sisters, except one of the aunts was a younger generation. And they lived there, and I spent a lot of time often with them. And playing around in that horse trough across the street.
It was a horse trough across the street.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with the neighborhood, it's Franklin. But that empty lot is still there. That triangular lot on.
I bet.
It's still there. It's on music and Franklin.
They come in as a point.
They come in as a point. But that was a public horse. That was a public horse trough. That's interesting.
I don't recall whether I ever saw a horse drink from it.
But it was there.
I'm going back to in the early 30s, and it's possible there was a milkman or a rag man. There used to be a rag man that come around and bought rags from the housewives.
Oh.
And he was.
What, they cleaned them or whatever? It was like a laundry service?
I don't know what he did with them. Maybe he didn't clean them. I don't know.
He bought them and.
But that was a service, and also they had people selling fruit and veggies on a wagon that was horse-drawn or mule-drawn.
And they would zigzag through the streets?
Came through the streets with some kind of a chant. I got bananas here, something like that.
And there's actually still a guy, Mr. Okra, who drives around in a pickup truck and chants that. I got bananas, I got this, I got that.
It evolved to that, where they had trucks.
They got pickup trucks. Yeah. That's and so like you used to, you were telling me the story of like you would always walk right past the market here to go back to the playground.
Yeah.
The St. Rock playground in the back.
Yeah. The uncle used to take me walking. I was very young now, 4 and 5, maybe up to 7 years old.
7 years old. So you're talking good 80 years ago at this point.
From all the way there.
To all the way back.
In the 900 block, all the way back to the park, which is nearly the Alvarez. That makes it about 13 blocks.
That's a good. Yeah. What did it? Because you know today they got the big old oak trees that line the whole way, and they put a brand new FEMA money, put in a brand new walking path between the market and that playground. It's a gorgeous walk back there.
I haven't seen that.
You know,
all it was a plain old park with a baseball field and swings like any other park. But
the cemetery would have been. I mean, it was right there by the cemetery.
It was right past St. Robert.
Right past cemetery. Yeah. I don't get like, and you know the interesting thing too. You've got like, you know, closer toward the river. Okay, so here's a fun one too. Bywater. You know, I was talking about Bywater, and you're like, well, where's Bywater? I'm like, well, that's where you grew up. But that's not a term that you use to describe this area when you were growing up.
No, but there was a reference to Bywater in a way because our phone numbers were Bywater 1234 and BY you would dial BY, and it was shortened later on with numbers instead of Bywater. And there was regions all over the city that had names to them.
And I guess that's where the neighborhood comes from, I suppose. I don't know. I've read a bunch of different articles about
Well, I don't know which came
Bywater.
first. I don't know what came first. The name.
Well, according to the articles I've read, the phone number came first, and then they named that the neighborhood. And so, I mean, if you're saying that, if you never referred to it if you would never refer to where you lived as Bywater, clearly clearly the telephone came first.
Until you told me about it.
Yeah. So clearly, so you would just call that area kind of downriver and that, I guess.
I guess I called it my neighborhood. That's all I could say. My neighborhood.
Yeah. You know, and you, of course, for everybody to help them out, you're my mom's father, and so you're my last living grandparent. But you're my mom's maiden name. You're Larmann. You're John Larmann. So you're part of, I guess, the WYES did a special on it, and I haven't seen it. The Germans in New Orleans. But they did a thing on it. Well, because, you know, the Italians with the muffaladas, you hear that all the time. The French, obviously. The Spanish architecture. But, you know, in Bywater, in that area where, like Leonard's, there's an old department store, Leonard's.
With that.
But now it's like a junk store.
I mentioned that to you.
Yeah.
What it was.
So I'm saying there was a lot of, I guess there was a lot, when you grew up here, there was a lot of German influence in this particular area?
Well, the biggest in this particular area, yes. But in New Orleans area, there were canal diggers. They dug most of the canals, the commercial canals.
Germans?
Germans were diggers, yeah.
So that's what they...
Irish too.
Irish. Yeah, because they got a big Irish thing. Yeah. But I mean, I would imagine that, I mean, it's just like I'm looking at all like Leonard's, and there's a grocery store directly across the street from Leonard's with a German name. I forget it now.
And there was a meat market up there too.
The meat market. Oh, the meat market was on the corner of, what is that? Burgundy and Piety. Yeah. And your father was a night watchman for the meat market.
Yeah. For a while
I remember you telling me that, because I just think, you know, with me being here, you know, this is, I guess, St. Roch is the seafood market. So, or historically, the seafood market. So it's very interesting that... I
think that was a general market with meats, you know, the butchers in there.
Butchers, yeah.
They might have had seafood booths too, yeah.
In there,
I don't recall exactly.
In here, I had one of the previous episodes of Coffee with Kevin, I had Bill, one of the guys I get coffee from, and when he sat down here, he was like, man, the last time I was in this building, I was buying turtle meat. So it's kind of it's kind of funny, and I don't know. For me, it's weird. Like I talked about in the beginning of the program. You know, for me, I have to like picture like you as a 7-year-old kid walking past this building, you know, or through this building.
I don't recall.
You know,
I don't recall if Uncle had to stop in here and get something for the home, some food for the home.
Yeah.
And I would have been in the building. But I don't recall that. I was very young. It's been a few years ago.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, I guess, you know, living here, and it's like, oh yeah, I used to bike. And our new house, you know, you can see you went to Nichols High School, which is the school, and I don't know the name of it now. It's the one between, Pauline and Alvar on the riverside. I don't know what they call it today, but
you mean
the Riverside, Nichols, yeah. So I can see Nichols High School from my new backyard, and so it's just interesting, you know, being here, and it's just like, you know, it's like the next step of, you know, it's just weird. Like, okay, my great grandfather was a night watchman at the meat market, and now I have a coffee shop here at at the seafood market, and it's just I don't know. I didn't do that intentionally, which is the weird part. You know, I didn't say, oh, I want to go back to my
that's where
genetic
my
father
grew up or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I never wanted to do that. It wasn't until you were in the backyard of the new house and you're like, oh yeah, there's Nichols High School, and I'm like, yeah, that is Nichols High School. You're right about that. So I don't know. I wonder if there's like a genetic memory that has caused me to do this or something, or what?
I don't know.
Why has that, or is this just the area where?
I think it's monetary, maybe, or you where you cared to move to next, or I don't know what.
It's certainly a fun area to be in. You know, they got some new parades happening down here now. So Tit Rex.
We always had a parade down here. Was that the original Okeanos?
I think Okeanos did roll down here because
it started down in St. Bernard.
And rolled up St. Claude.
Up here. To the auditorium.
Now, St. Vincent, the church, which St. Vincent de Paul for you, but the one that St. Francis Xavier Silos. Now, you know, I got married there, but they had a time capsule that they opened up, and it was in the ground, which is a terrible place to put a time capsule. It was a 50-year time capsule.
Was it still there?
It was still there. They opened it up, but it was full of water, so anything paper-wise was gone. So the only thing that was survived, this was about a couple of weeks ago. This wasn't that long ago. And they had anyway, the only thing that survived were a bunch of Okeanos doubloons. I guess people from the neighborhood had, some people in the neighborhood had put that, there.
They didn't rot away because they were aluminum. Seemed like
they were in good shape. I guess there's aluminum makeup.
Maybe they were wrapped or something in foil or something.
They had that, and they had a little plastic toys in it. So anyway, they actually did assemble a new time capsule for that church, but they put it in the altar as opposed to in the ground in front of the church. So that was
that's where it should have been.
That's where. Well, I don't know because the altar in that church burned.
You told me about that.
And it burned in like 2003 or something. So the altar they put it in was actually the altar from the church over here, Saints Peter and Paul. The one over on.
That was a German church.
That was a German church. Yeah.
I don't know why they classified it as German. Maybe the priest was German. I don't know.
Well, y'all went to St. Vincent de Paul, huh?
Yeah.
You'd go to mass there. Yeah. And I remember Mom telling me that her grandfather, your dad's funeral was there.
Yes, it was.
Which is interesting.
I went to catechism there. Not school, but catechism to learn Catholicism, and it was on and off deal. You know, I guess it was continuous until we finished what we had to learn. You know, the course.
One of the other things
I like the old priest, Father Alfred.
And so that's going
Father Anderson. I'm sorry.
Father Anderson. Okay.
Yeah, he was great. He did comedy with the catechism, and it made us interested. You know, we listened. And he was smart to do that. You know. Yeah.
So as a kid, one of the things that you're like, I used to play up by the woods, by Galvez, which is kind of I'm like, Galvez, come on. But I guess, the river has been the area that has seen, the neighborhoods get, more expensive, for lack of a better term. And then, but all the areas when you lived up over here, closer to the river, those areas up by Galvez and Robinson and stuff were a lot of.
Galvez was only 5 blocks back from where I lived most of the time. But we always referred to back of town.
Back of town.
Yeah, back of town, or the woods.
The woods.
On the riverside, no, the woods side.
The riverside or the woods side.
Yeah.
Now we say lakeside.
Yeah.
Riverside or lakeside. I guess it made it all the way to the lake.
That's true. Yeah.
So you'd say riverside or woods side.
Yeah.
And
it was woods back then.
They didn't have much development or whatever back then. So a lot of the development would have came after you were a kid in that area, 60s or something in that particular area. I wonder when that whole area was built up.
Well, I left there in 50, moved away. We were married and we moved away in 50.
Uh-huh.
And but since then it's been a lot of change. My mother stayed there after my dad died until '74, and she finally decided to come out and live near us and moved to Metairie.
Yeah.
But we used to walk back there past, it was past Galvin, it was Florida Avenue, which was really where the woods began. And we used to walk back that way, another 5 blocks past Galvin's. And we'd go out and cross the industrial canal and walk all back in the woods with our guns and
and have.
So we were kids and we enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the things too that I wanted to ask you, one of the things that's really happening, and I know your eyesight's bad, unfortunately, but like the new streetcar is just phenomenal, man. Rampart Street is beautiful. It's just phenomenal. And so, that new, a lot of times you talk about, oh yeah, we used to take the streetcar here, take the streetcar there, but you took the St. Claude streetcar that ran all the way up and over the bridge a lot.
It started down there by the Jackson Barracks.
Yeah.
Went all the way to Canal Street. And there was other ones from Waterman Park. The magazine line came to Canal Street. And the Carrollton came to Canal Street.
And the Desire line, of course.
The Desire also came out my way. And then the Canal Boulevard, the Canal Street.
Canal Street.
Went out
to Canal, zigzag
City
to Canal
Park
Boulevard.
Avenue, and then there was a bus. But all of that went there, and you got a transfer. From the streetcar had a motorman in the front and a conductor in the back. And when you paid the conductor, and if you wanted to transfer to another line, he gave you a slip. You want to transfer, and he give you a slip, and you could give that to the next conductor, and the 7 cents took you from Jackson Barracks to the other end of town, Audubon Park, or whatever. For 7 cents.
It's $1.25 today.
And it was a sacred car. It was 7 cents since before I was born.
That was the...
And I don't remember when it changed because I was riding in cars then. It may have been in the 50s. It may have been in the 60s. I don't remember.
But you did say your family never had cars all that much. I mean, you had cars from time to time, but your dad was a kid.
What I'm talking about was when I started driving, I got cars myself. Right after I got married, I bought a car. And from then on, I always had a car or two.
Yeah. Well, Grandpa, thank you so much for coming to have coffee with me here in the market. I think it's very interesting. Here you are, like kind of like hanging around this neighborhood. Now like you get to come to have coffee at your grandson's coffee shop in St. Roch Market. Yeah. So it's kind of a neat little like full circle thing, I suppose, for you.
It's nice to have lived long enough to look at my family growing up like you are. Your generation.
And the stuff you've seen in the past 90 years is just, that's another whole show. I mean, the technology that has transferred from here to there. I mean, that's just, that's
true.
It's a neat thing. And then I definitely wanted to get you on the show, and I'll have you on the show again too. Because I think having a nice little video documentary of stories and that would be great for Owen in his 30s. I'm sure this will still be on the internet at that time.
I can tell you a lot of stories, but something's got to bring them to me.
Well, I tried to prompt you with as many things as stories that I remember you telling me that I found interesting. I've tried to prompt you with. Grandpa, thank you so much for coming. Come by again soon.
I enjoyed it. Peace to you.